What if Cleopatra won the Battle of Actium? In 323 BC, following Alexander the Great's death, his generals fought for control of his vast empire at the Battle of Actium. While the battle itself ended indecisively, Octavian managed to bestir Mark Antony and Cleopatra, his wife, in a battle of attrition that followed. This humiliating defeat led to the end of Cleopatra's rule and the beginning of the Roman Empire. But what if Cleopatra had won the battle? Cleopatra's strength was her navy. She commanded over 600 ships, including 200 from Rome. While Octavian only had about 200, most were light, swift vessels designed for the shallow waters of the Nile River and the Red Sea. Because of this, they were not suited for open sea battles. However, Cleopatra also had 140-round, heavily armed ships, many of which were given to her by her former lover, Julius Caesar. These were formidable warships, but they're big, slow, and cumbersome. So much so that they could only be maneuvered with the help of long hooks used to grab the ropes and pull them in different directions. Actium took place off the coast of Greece in the Ionian Sea. So Cleopatra's fleet had to contend with strong tides and waves, something her ships were not used to. On top of this, the Egyptian queen had to deal with an angry mob of soldiers who disliked her presence and wanted to fight, as well as a mutiny by her own fleet. Mutiny. The reason for the mutiny is unclear, but it may have been due to delays caused by Cleopatra's desire to avoid rough seas or because the sailors knew that their ships were no match for those of the Romans in open water and simply panicked. Whatever the reason, Cleopatra was forced to unleash her cavalry against the mutiny, killing or injuring many and sending the rest fleeing. The queen then set sail, hoping to lure the Romans into the open sea, where she could use her superior numbers to destroy them. But even without the mutiny, her fleet would have had a hard time. Actium was not your typical naval battle. The combatants were evenly matched, making it one of the rare times when tactics mattered. And here, Cleopatra simply didn't have any. Her ships were slow and cumbersome, and her fleet was too big. Because of this, her only option was to attack head-on with overwhelming force, something that worked against the Egyptians. But against the Romans, it only led to her fleet being decimated. Of the 140 round ships, 30 were sunk and the rest were damaged. And although Cleopatra managed to escape with a few dozen of her ships, it was a humiliating defeat rather than destroy her fleet. Though, what if she had used her superior numbers to encircle and trap Octavian's ships, overwhelming them and forcing them to surrender? Would Cleopatra have gone down in history as the greatest military commander of all time? Not likely. Although she may have managed to defeat Octavian at Actium, it's unlikely she would have bested him on land. His army was far larger than hers, and he had just defeated another Egyptian force in Greece. Even if Cleopatra had somehow managed to get her navy to Greece, she still would have faced heavy resistance from Rome's legions. Cleopatra tried to invade Cyprus in 57 BC, but after learning that Rome had sent an army to defend the island, she gave up the siege and went back to Egypt. Plus, even if she had defeated Octavian in Actium and somehow managed to capture Rome, she would have had to deal with Sextus Pompey, Caesar's father-in-law, who had established a pirate state in the western Mediterranean. Pompey controlled the western seas, and his navy was second only to Cleopatra's. If she wanted to expand her empire, she would have had to turn her attention to him next. And judging by how difficult it was for Rome to defeat Pompey years later, it's unlikely Cleopatra would have stood a chance. Even if she had managed to defeat both of them, Cleopatra still wouldn't have been able to defeat Octavian's uncle, Marcus Agrippa. Agrippa was arguably the most talented Roman general and one of the best military commanders of all time. He defeated Sex, Pompey, and even Hannibal at sea. So unless Cleopatra had some ace up her sleeve, she would have lost against him eventually. Thanks for watching.